Imagine waking up tomorrow with the same body, the same face, the same past, but an entirely different mind. A mind wired for power instead of fear, for clarity instead of doubt, for action instead of hesitation. Imagine what becomes possible when your brain stops being your cage and becomes your greatest weapon. Tonight, I want to show you that you don't need a new life to transform your destiny. You just need a new pattern, and you can rewire it starting right now. Your brain is the most powerful creation engine on the planet, and yet most people walk through life using it like a second-hand tool they found in a garage. They let old beliefs run their decisions, old memories control their emotions, and old fears limit their future. But you are not here for an average life. You're here because something inside you knows there's more. Something inside you is done being trapped by invisible walls. Something inside you is ready to take command. And that shift, the shift from being ruled by your brain to rewiring your brain, changes everything. We're taught in school how to memorize facts, how to follow rules, how to behave. But nobody teaches us the most important skill in the world, how to take control of the voice inside our head. That voice shapes our identity. It shapes our boundaries. It shapes how big or small we allow ourselves to live. You don't get the life you deserve. You get the life your patterns are wired to sustain. So if you want a bigger life, if you want more passion, more power, more results, you don't start with what's around you, you start with what's inside you. Most people think change is about willpower. They think they need to force their life into a new direction. But real change, lasting change, happens when you upgrade the internal circuitry of how you think, feel, act, and respond. Your brain is constantly being shaped by repetition, emotion, and focus. Every thought you repeat becomes a thread. Every emotion you feed becomes a cable. Every action you reinforce becomes a steel structure. One day you wake up, and those structures form the architecture of your identity. But identity is not a prison, it's a construction site. You can tear down what no longer serves you and build something stronger, bigger, freer. You weren't born with your doubts. You weren't born with your fears. You weren't born with your insecurities. These things were installed by experiences, by people, by society, by moments where you decided who you thought you were. But if they were installed, they can be uninstalled. And if they can be uninstalled, they can be replaced. This is the power of rewiring your brain. It doesn't matter where the old story came from. You get to write the new one. Think back to any moment in your life when you became unstoppable. A time when you broke through something you once thought was impossible. That wasn't luck. That wasn't coincidence. That was a moment when your emotional state, your thoughts, and your action aligned with a new internal wiring. You didn't need permission. You didn't need perfect conditions. You simply stepped into a different version of yourself. And that version is still in you. It's not gone. It's waiting to be activated intentionally, not accidentally. Most people live their lives on mental autopilot. They run the same loops every day, the same thoughts, the same reactions, the same emotional habits. They think they're making choices, but most of their choices were decided by the patterns wired years ago. You don't rise to your goals, you fall to your patterns. So if you want to rise higher, you must create higher patterns. Patterns of certainty, patterns of focus, patterns of meaning, patterns of action. The first step to rewiring your brain is awareness. You cannot change a pattern you refuse to look at. You have to look yourself in the mirror, not to judge, not to shame, but to recognize the truth. What thoughts do you replay every morning? What emotions have you allowed to become your default setting? What stories about yourself are you still carrying from 5, 10, 20 years ago? Because the minute you become conscious of these patterns, they lose their power. They were strong only because they were invisible. Shine a light on them, and the rewiring begins. The second step is to break the old pattern. Interrupt it. Shatter its rhythm. The brain loves predictability. It loves loops. The more predictable the loop, the stronger it becomes. So when you disrupt that loop, when you change your physical state, shift your voice, break your posture, change your environment, you weaken the neural highways that keep you stuck. Interrupt the emotion, the thought, the reaction, even just for a moment, and you open space for something new to grow. Change doesn't start with perfection, it starts with interruption. The third step is installation. You don't just remove old patterns, you replace them with powerful ones. You build new emotional states on command. You move your body with intention. You speak to yourself with certainty. You focus on what you want instead of what you fear. You rehearse the identity you want to live, not the identity you were conditioned to accept. Your brain doesn't know the difference between imagination and reality. What you repeat with intensity, it wires as truth. So rehearse greatness, rehearse confidence, rehearse leadership, rehearse boldness until it becomes your new autopilot. The fourth step is repetition with emotion. Emotion is the electricity of the brain. It's what burns new patterns in deeper than anything else. A thought repeated without emotion becomes a whisper. A thought repeated with emotion becomes a command. So when you rehearse your new identity, do it with full engagement. Mind, body, voice, energy. That's how you wire it fast. That's how you wire it permanently. The fifth step is environmental reinforcement. Your environment can either trigger your new patterns or drag you back into the old ones. If you surround yourself with people who complain, who doubt, who settle, who shrink, you will be pulled down unconsciously. If you surround yourself with people who push, who stretch, who challenge, who expand, you rise unconsciously. Your brain adapts to the vibration around it. Change your environment and you accelerate your rewiring. Protect that environment like your life depends on it, because the life you want absolutely does. The sixth step is identity declaration. You don't grow into your future, you grow into your identity. Your identity is the thermostat of your life. If your identity says you're average, you will sabotage anything extraordinary. But if your identity says you are powerful, capable, disciplined, unstoppable, you will fight through anything. You don't wait to feel like that person. You declare it, you live it before it's fully true. And because the brain must stay congruent with the identity you embody, it rewires itself to make that identity real. The seventh step is action, massive, consistent action. Not perfect action, not convenient action. Action that reinforces your new wiring through lived experience. When you act differently, you prove to your brain that the old story is dead. Every time you move forward despite fear, you weaken the old circuitry. Every time you choose discipline over excuses, you strengthen the new architecture. Action is the cement that locks the new wiring into place. Without action, your new beliefs remain concepts. With action, they become character. And the beautiful thing is this: rewiring your brain doesn't take years. Change doesn't happen in slow motion. It happens in moments of intensity. It happens in moments where you decide. It happens in moments where you say, enough. It happens in moments where you step into your strength rather than your fear. The brain is always rewiring, with every thought, every emotion, every choice. So the question is not, can you rewire your brain? The question is, what are you wiring it for? Are you wiring for courage or hesitation? For power or weakness? For growth or stagnation? For possibility or limitation? Every day you are voting for the person you are becoming. And those votes accumulate. One day the votes add up to a new identity, a new destiny, a new life. But it starts with one moment, one decision, one shift in how you use your mind. You are not here to repeat your past. You are not here to recycle old beliefs. You are not here to be a prisoner of your old programming. You are here to rewrite your internal code. You are here to build a mind that matches the magnitude of your potential. You are here to rewire your brain so completely that your old self can't even recognize you. The world doesn't need more people living on autopilot. It needs people who are awake, people who choose their thoughts, people who master their emotions, people who create their identity consciously, people who understand that the most powerful force on earth is a human being who has rewired their brain to align with their purpose. So step into that version of you, break the old pattern, install the new one, rehearse it with passion, reinforce it with action, upgrade your identity, and never forget, your brain is not your limit. Your brain is your launch pad. You have the power to rewire it. You have the power to redesign yourself. And the moment you take ownership of that power, your entire life begins to transform. When you begin to truly understand the power you hold within your own mind, life stops being something that happens to you and becomes something you sculpt with intention. Most people spend their entire existence reacting to problems, reacting to stress, reacting to circumstances. But the moment you decide to rewire your brain, you shift from reaction to creation. You stop waiting for inspiration and start generating it. You stop waiting for confidence and start building it. You stop waiting for opportunities and start attracting them through the energy, decisions, and identity you step into. Your brain is always listening. Every time you say, "I can't," it wires in limitation. Every time you say, "I don't know if I'm good enough," it strengthens the circuitry of doubt. Every time you hesitate instead of acting, it reinforces the habit of paralysis. But the reverse is also true. Every time you say, "I will find a way," you wire resourcefulness. Every time you push through fear, you wire courage. Every time you follow through on a promise to yourself, you wire discipline. Your brain is neutral. It's not your enemy. It simply reinforces whatever you feed it most consistently. And when you feed it strength more often than weakness, it transforms who you are at the deepest level. But rewiring doesn't happen by accident. It happens through ritual. You must create small daily practices that signal to your mind who you are becoming. This can be as simple as waking up and asking yourself powerful questions. What am I committed to creating today? What identity must I operate from? What emotion will I embody? These questions redirect your focus from survival to expansion. They prime your brain to search for solutions instead of excuses. Your life is shaped not by the answers you have, but by the questions you ask consistently. And then there's your physiology. You cannot rewire your brain while living in the body language of defeat. The mind listens to the body just as much as the body listens to the mind. When you stand tall, breathe deeply, move with intensity, and take up space, your brain rewires itself into a state of certainty. Your emotional state changes not just by thinking differently, but by shifting your physical energy. Power is not something you think about. It's something you do. Your brain follows your movement. Change your physiology and you change your psychology. Another critical part of rewiring your brain is breaking emotional addictions. And yes, emotional addictions are real. Some people are addicted to stress, to worry, to frustration, to drama, to self-doubt. These emotions become familiar, and the brain will unconsciously recreate circumstances that bring them back, because the brain loves what it knows, even if it's destructive. To rewire, you must interrupt these emotional loops before they take hold. The moment you feel that familiar fear, that familiar anger, that familiar doubt, interrupt it. Break the pattern. Change your breath, change your tone, change your movement. Say something out loud that shakes the state loose. If you don't interrupt the old emotion, you will relive it. If you interrupt it, you weaken it. And the more you weaken it, the more room you create for empowerment to take its place. Then comes the rewiring of meaning. Meaning is the interpretation you attach to events, and it's the most powerful force shaping your decisions. Two people can live the same experience. One becomes broken, the other becomes unstoppable. The difference is the meaning they assign to the event. If you see challenges as punishment, your brain wires in fear and avoidance. But if you see challenges as training, your brain wires in strength and resilience. If you see failure as proof you're not good enough, you wire in insecurity. But if you see failure as the curriculum of mastery, you wire in growth. Meaning determines your emotional state, your actions, and your destiny. So choose meanings that empower you, not imprison you. Another pillar is association. Human beings are tribal creatures. Our brains adapt to the minds we surround ourselves with. If you spend time with people who constantly speak in limitations, it's too hard. You can't do that. Be realistic. Your brain absorbs their worldview without you even noticing. But if you surround yourself with people who stretch you, challenge you, elevate you, you begin to think bigger because their patterns seep into your own. Sometimes the fastest way to rewire your brain is simply to limit access to people who live in mental poverty and increase proximity to people who expand your thinking. And don't underestimate the power of environment. Your physical surroundings influence your mental programming. If you live in chaos, your mind becomes chaotic. If you work in cluttered, your thoughts become cluttered. If you consistently see reminders of your old self, you stay in the identity of your old self. Sometimes, the shift begins by cleaning your room, organizing your desk, redesigning the space where you think and create. You are deeply affected by what you see, hear, and feel daily. Build an environment that anchors your future, not your past. One of the most powerful rewiring tools is visualization, and not passive visualization, emotional, immersive, full body visualization. When you vividly imagine yourself acting as the person you want to become, your brain fires the same neural pathways as if it were happening in real life. The more vivid the mental rehearsal, the faster your brain wires it as your new normal. Athletes, performers, leaders, they all use this skill. You don't visualize to escape reality. You visualize to build it. You're training your brain to recognize the path before you even walk it. But visualization without action is fantasy. To truly rewire your brain, you must repeatedly place yourself in situations where your new identity is required. You have to do the hard things, the uncomfortable things, the uncertain things. You have to stretch yourself beyond what feels safe. That's where the real rewiring happens, in action, not in comfort. The brain rewires rapidly when you experience something new with intensity. Every time you step into discomfort, your brain creates new neural pathways. Every time you lean into fear instead of running from it, you build a new baseline of courage. And let's talk about language, your internal vocabulary. Some people destroy their own potential with nothing more than the words they say to themselves. I'm tired. I'm overwhelmed. I'm unlucky. I never get a break. Every time you say these things, you reinforce a mental prison. But when you shift your language from limitation to empowerment, everything changes. Imagine replacing I'm tired with I'm recharging, replacing I can't do this with I'm learning how, replacing I'm stuck with I'm about to break through. Language is not communication, it is programming, and your brain will obey whatever commands you give it most often. Another essential piece of the rewiring process is self-trust. So many people fail to change because they don't trust themselves anymore. They've broken too many promises to themselves, abandoned too many goals, quit too many times. But self-trust is not rebuilt through perfection. It's rebuilt through consistency. Small wins, tiny promises kept every day. Micro commitments that compound into massive confidence. When you consistently prove to yourself that you follow through, your brain rewires into a state of certainty. You stop needing motivation because you've built self-trust. And a person who trusts themselves is unstoppable. Reflection is also a powerful rewiring tool. Most people repeat their days instead of learning from them. But when you pause and extract lessons from your experiences, your brain integrates them. You grow faster, you adapt faster, your identity evolves faster. At the end of each day, ask yourself, what did I do well? What did I learn? What will I improve tomorrow? These questions don't just give you clarity. They rewire your brain to search for growth instead of judgment, opportunity instead of failure. One of the greatest truths about rewiring your brain is this: you do not need permission. You do not need perfect timing. You do not need everything figured out. You just need to decide. Decide that the old patterns are done. Decide that the old story is over. Decide that you are no longer negotiating with your limitations. The moment you decide fully, not casually, the rewiring begins instantly. Your brain takes orders from the decisions you make with conviction. But here's what most people forget. Rewiring your brain is not a one-time effort. It's not a motivational burst. It's not a moment of hype. It's a lifestyle. It's the commitment to never stop upgrading your patterns, your identity, your emotional wiring. It's understanding that your brain is constantly changing, and you get to choose the direction of that change. You can spiral downward, or you can rise upward. But it's always in motion. The mind you will have 5 years from now will be determined by the thoughts you repeat today, the emotions you feed today, the actions you take today, the standards you live by today. Your future is not created by destiny. It's created by wiring. And when you finally feel the shift, when you start responding differently, thinking differently, showing up differently, you'll realize that rewiring your brain was never about becoming someone new. It was about removing everything that was never truly you. It was about uncovering the version of you that's been waiting beneath the noise, the fear, the conditioning, the doubt. It was about letting the strongest, clearest, most powerful version of yourself finally come alive. Your brain is mappable, it is trainable, and it is yours. So take control of it, shape it, direct it, command it. Because the life you want will always require a mind that matches its level. And you, right now, have the power to build that mind.